I keep forgetting how short that intro actually is. What's going on, everybody? How are you doing? This is a special in the tiny chair that I got talked into because of these two freaks. But whatever.
We wanted to talk.
Yes, we all did. We all did want to talk about Godzilla. Needed to find the time to do it. Yes, this is spoiler. I should have actually added that to the thing. What I'm going to add that real fast. Godzilla -1 spoilers. Give me a moment. Spoilers. So yeah, if you guys don't want Godzilla -1 spoilers, maybe don't be here. I just realized I spelled spoilers wrong.
Oh, I am so shocked at you spelling something wrong.
Own it. Just leave it.
Spoilers.
Don't encourage
It's SPOILERS, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Just double checking. Listen, I'm retarded. We've been over this. But we're talking Godzilla -1 with spoilers. We're doing all that. We're gonna have a nice little chat here. Is Jeremy actually dyslexic? Nice. Yes, I am actually dyslexic and retarded. But let's introduce our two guests. Let's start with the lovely and beautiful and gorgeous simp for Ripiverse, green-haired anti-liberal.
I thought you were gonna.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about me.
You had like the full opportunity to get me all and then say him, but whatever.
I was taking this in a good area. I should have done that. Why did I do that?
Go ahead.
I'm tired. I don't know what it is today. I'm like not on full normal dermy mode. I don't know what's going on. I'm like at less than 25% mental capacity.
Take a sensu bean.
I do need a sensu bean. The coffee didn't even work this morning. It was weird. But Gal, introduce yourself.
I'm green-haired anti-liberal. You probably know me. I've been around for a bit now, I guess, which is weird, but hi.
Hi. Okay.
Hello.
Quick and easy, quick and simple. I don't know what I'm expecting.
It is what it is, man.
It is true. And special guest, first time on the channel. I think this might be his first time streaming at all. KratosElGratos, how are you?
Doing great. Glad to be here. It is the first time I've been on stream. Ready to talk about Godzilla. It's a great movie.
That's right. And let's quickly say hello to all the chat. I do think this is probably the best movie of the year. It's either that or Mario. I'm not gonna lie.
No, Mario is not. No, it's Godzilla.
That's an opinion for sure.
That is an opinion. A bad opinion, but an opinion. Nevertheless, we got Legatus Legionus in chat, mod extraordinaire. We got Tris here in chat. Roll ya dermy. I'm gonna roll. We got D-Day McLean, twerky worky. Guys didn't see that meme? Go onto Twitter and check it out. We got Shaka Zulu in chat. Howdy, buddy. We also got we got me saying Gal was late. We got green-haired anti-liberal.
Fucking liar.
You were.
We started the stream on time. Don't shush me and spare him.
Okay.
Can anyone get that? Can anyone get that?
We got.
I am in a mood. I'm sorry.
You're in a mood. I'm like half, less than half mental capacity. I don't know what's going on. I see Hideo Kojima's getting an ovation for some reason at the Game Awards. I don't know why. I said that. Hideo.
No, you said
Shadow Hawk is here in chat. Professor Savage Dad, just making sure. We got Samuel, the infamous. Mario doesn't come close. For me, it's a tie because there was it's a tie.
It is not.
And then we got True Pop Culture 7. But okay, we're not talking Mario. Oh, what did you say, Kratos?
I said, hey, True Pop.
Oh, hey, True Pop. Listen, he's a lofty. Okay, just ignore him. He's a contrarian. It's
He's
okay.
a Bieber.
He's a believer. Yes, he is a believer.
How dare you call him a lofty?
Have you seen some of his takes?
I don't care. Lofty is on a level his own.
True Pop didn't like. No. True Pop didn't like. What was it? The 5th Harry Potter book, or no?
I hate
the 5th Harry Potter book.
He didn't finish the 7th one, is what he said.
Screw 5 through 7. Go True Pop. Shut up!
I like True Pop.
You're not on stream.
Is that your brother making a cameo?
Yes.
I love your brother. He's awesome.
He's good.
But he
doesn't like the 6th and 7th. Just to be clear, he said the 5th.
Well, that,
oh yes,
okay,
he said he didn't like the 5th.
No, I'm talking about my brother.
Oh, listen, he didn't like the 5th because he thought it was being very sympathetic towards Voldemort.
Listen, I have a very controversial take when it comes to someone actually having written those books. And you can tell after the 4th that the writing style changes. And said person also hasn't written anything good since. So I would just like to state, fuck Harry Potter. I love him and I hate him. And mostly because of someone who wrote them.
Well, and also, True Pop, we had to explain what KY jelly was. And you said you did this week. You said you didn't know what it was because we didn't say it was lube. When I went back and said, we outright said it was lube. So, okay. Anyways, here we're not here to shit on True Pop, okay? Even though that is a fun time
or
to do.
Harry Potter.
We are here to talk about Godzilla -1. So
Yes.
before we go around talk any further about spoilers and stuff like that, and watch me butcher Japanese names and things like that, why don't we start off by just saying our overall thoughts of the movie was? Let's start with Kratos.
Yeah, I loved it.
Newbies first.
It's another example of a foreign movie coming in and just dominating Hollywood for many different reasons. But yeah, overall, I've not really seen a lot of the other Godzilla movies in the franchise. I've seen a couple of them, but yeah, just from mostly outsider perspective, I could tell there was a lot of history in it that they were, staying true to. But yeah, great movie overall.
Yeah, they were staying true to what make like the basics of Godzilla himself being born of nuclear energy.
Yeah.
Force of nature. That's what they were staying true to, and they gave homage to like the guy in the suit. You can kind of see it in his design and how he.
A little bit about the lore. I've never actually seen the original movie, but yeah, the guy in the suit thing definitely picked up on that because like the way that he moves and everything, it was very exactly. Yeah.
And then his arms.
Sometimes they were just like he was walking, and it's just it was great. I loved it.
I loved every second of it. But Gal, what were your overall thoughts?
No one invited you on this stream. Oh my god!
Bring him over here. I love your brother. Bring him back. He shits on you. That's why I like him.
I hate him.
Which is hard to do.
I apologize, chat. My brother's an ass. Okay, my thoughts. I love basically everything. Shut up. I love basically everything about this movie. There are certain things that happened in a couple of scenes that I don't like, but overall, I love the commentary on PTSD, on Japanese culture, and government in general. Like it is a pretty anti-government type of movie, and it's not heavy-handed with it. It's very subtle, and I really enjoyed that aspect. I am not normally someone who cares too much about the human aspect of Godzilla movies. I did enjoy some of them from like King of Monsters, and I actually liked the 2014 Godzilla. I didn't love it by any means, but the human aspect could have been done differently, especially in that one. Didn't really care for the comedy in King of Monsters, and fuck the rest of them. But the human aspect of this movie is indescribable. How it gets you invested in the characters, and you don't feel like you're missing something because you haven't seen Godzilla yet in like full form rampaging. And it's once he does come into it, it doesn't feel like it's forced. It doesn't feel too fast paced. I loved everything about it, and I can't wait to talk spoilers because I did have like 2 major issues, and then one of them kind of got cut in half because of the ending and the way they did it, and it was really good, and I really liked it.
Yeah, I really agree with that. Taking it into their own hands thing that the citizens did, that was great. And then like actually making Godzilla a villain was amazing. Yeah, go ahead, Jeremy.
I was gonna say I love that. Before I get into my point, let me get what Samuel, the infamous for $10, just said. Godzilla -1 is the best movie of the year. It is the best I've seen in years. I could give you that. What was this?
I feel like that was more of a. It's not just the best movie of the year. I feel like that's what he.
There's not a lot to compare it to. I mean, I did like the Dungeons and Dragons movie, but that's on a different level.
I didn't watch that on principle.
But Samuel the Infamous also said it was very much a responsibility and survivor's guilt. Yeah, I would say that.
Mm-hmm.
I would push back on survivor's guilt. It was maybe a bit of survivor's guilt, but also feeling like you didn't fulfill your honor.
So it's both of those things. Like his PTSD is driven by his survivor's guilt because he didn't do like what he was supposed to do. He failed in his honor. Like it's like 2 or 3-fold.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said that this was a different Godzilla movie than before. I would actually I'd agree with that. And what I'm gonna say is it kind of felt like Godzilla was a side character in his own movie, and that was perfectly fine. Because it felt like the main characters were the antagonist. He force of nature is what I call him, because yes, he is the villain, but I think he's just more of a being that exists that is rampaging. Like you can't control nature. So
I've got some interesting points on that.
I would love to hear it, but what I would say is the movie doesn't really center around Godzilla. It centers around the main family. All those characters are the main characters of the story, and they are phenomenal. I love that whole storyline. I love the main guy. I actually was shocked that they did what they did. Indifferent towards the ending, but that's because I don't know how it all worked.
So you want to segue into what Gal didn't like about the ending?
Yes, let's start there because we might be on a similar area.
So my main issue is actually when it's one of my favorite scenes, but I have an issue with the contrivance of him finding her in Ginza after she gets out of the water. I did not like that he was just able to, I found you, Noriko. Mm-hmm. She's in the middle of a city. It's not a huge city by any means because they're rebuilding everything, but he was just able to, they didn't show anything beyond the last thing we knew, she fell in the water, and then she's walking and Godzilla is rampaging again, coming her way, and he's just able to find her in a crowd. That really annoyed me.
I'm so not gonna lie, this might be my racism coming out. I didn't know it was Noriko until the blast happened. I'm not gonna lie.
It's not some random person.
That's not racism. You're not in Japan. You're not in Asia in general, so you can't pick out those differences. Asian people see white people as white people see Asian people who aren't used to it. Like you can't pick out those exact features because you don't see them all the time.
Yeah, quick side tangent. That's the theory that I heard about was like if you grow up in an area where a lot of people have similar features in one way, but different features in a different way. Mm-hmm. So like, you know, like Asians can tell each other apart, but it's hard for them to tell white people apart and vice versa. Right.
Yeah.
And so like, when you're little, you learn to differentiate based on certain features, but not others. So like you end up getting like face blindness to the common features that everybody has around you in your community. So, that's kind of the nerdy explanation why I think that's why that is. That
was super nerdy.
Extremely super nerdy.
My other issue is also actually in that same scene, and it's the one that ties to the end. So they've found each other. Like he found her just before she's about to die. Oh my god. I can get past that. It's small in the grand scheme of things. And because basically the next moments she dies.
Yes.
But she didn't have to die. Her just pushing him pissed me off because she's tiny, he's a dude, and she just like throws him, right? Split second. All she had to do was fucking tackle him and go with him.
Or just grab his arm.
Right. In that moment, I was annoyed. And then afterwards, like she's gone, right? I was fixing it throughout. Like, I was paying attention to the movie, but it was still like in the back of my head. I'm like, there's such a better way that you could do that, where it would be more impactful for her to die in his arms. Like, she was able to take both of them, but like it broke her spine in, like she hit the wall behind them in a certain way, something like that. And she just slowly dies in his arms, and it has more meaning.
You're having a point there and everything. Kenzo said what he said, so I had to flip him off real quick. But I do agree with what you're saying.
But yeah, so then in the end, sorry, you were gonna say something.
No, you finish your point.
Okay. Well, so after everything happens with Godzilla, we'll get to that like final build-up battle, but like afterwards, him finding, like, it helps his mentality to get where he needs to go in the moment when that final battle takes place with Godzilla, for him not to know that she's alive in the end. So I was more okay with it because they bring her back to life, but at the same time, I don't like that. Like, that bitch is dead. Yeah. Let me just say that bitch is dead.
Bitch would have been torn apart.
That comment from Shaka Zulu. Main character was a coward, and it made you hate him, but also relatable. But the thing was, it was him overcoming that and gaining confidence and bravery, and like being the one to go in and make that.
Well, and the thing is, it's not just that really he's a coward. He goes against basically Japan and everything that they were at that time. It is cowardice, but it's having a lack of respect for life. And the entire movie is kind of a commentary on that. And some of that is where my point was, and I will stop talking. I'm sorry.
Well, one of the first lines in the movie between those two characters, when he came in to get his plane repaired, and he was lying about that. One of the first lines was like, "Yeah, I don't see the reason to give up your life when it's clear we're going to lose," stuff like that, right?
Right.
And so there's some motivation in that, but then also when he's like freezing up, when he needs to shoot Godzilla, when probably that could have solved everything before it was even a problem. But that's like going into his character as like being indecisive, maybe not wanting to put his life on the line for somebody else, whereas later on he's the one to put his life on the line so that other people can have a future. And so that's really good character growth. So yeah, he's a coward at the beginning, but he grows.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. And in the beginning, sorry, my brother just said something and I'm punching.
Well, let me go. Let me respond to what you said about the so like him finding her in that crowd. It's hard to believe, especially the giant crowd of people, and then he's running towards Godzilla, which doesn't make sense for his character, really.
Yep.
I would say you're wrong there. It makes sense for his character solely because he doesn't want to admit it, but he does love Noriko.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And I think
that's what's driving him.
And part of the reason why he won't admit it is because he's, like he said, there's another line where he said the war isn't over for him, and so he didn't want to put that on her, I guess. But
and it's also ingrained in his soul that he's not worthy because he has no honor left.
Yeah. And so the only excuse I think I can make for him finding her in the crowd is that she was the only one who wasn't running away in panic, and so she was kind of like easier to spot that way, but it's still contrived.
Yeah.
I don't think he really needed to be there. But then on the point of the part where, I totally agree. She could have just like grabbed him, went between the buildings. But visually, I think if they set that up a little bit better to where maybe he just happened to be standing in between the buildings and she wasn't, that visually like her getting blown away, and then you see like the reaction of like the wind come back after the explosion.
Right.
There's no way she's not mangled. And like that scene to me was really impactful because he walks out, he sees there's nobody around. It doesn't really show any gore, but you can imagine there's just like body parts everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I actually agree. Like when I saw that scene and her go flying, I was like, oh, that bitch is shredded.
Yes.
She's not, there's nothing there. There's no way they have a body. There's no existence left of that.
Because it wasn't just like it wasn't just she went flying. It was like she went flying, and then like you saw debris continue to fly that direction, and then come back the other way at equal speed.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That was such a badass scene, and I've been waiting to say this. So, one, the story-wise, yes, it is a super impactful scene, but my favorite part about that was actually watching the new way Godzilla does his atomic breath. Because I loved how that all worked. It doesn't make much sense, but I like the visuals of it. Like all of his dorsal fins start rising out of his body. Like you can see it like a level up, or not a level up, but a build up process. Not just lights, but it's actually like
the intensity.
Thing. Yes, the intensity
throughout. Yeah, I feel like they kind of took that from the more recent, like the MonsterVerse. Not took it, but like took inspiration from it a bit, because one of my favorite scenes of the 2014 Godzilla is when he fucking like opens Muto's mouth and blasts into it. Oh my god, I love that scene so much, and I like that's what it reminded me of was, and just the sounds with it. It's just you're hearing that power up, and it's I loved that.
I like it a little bit more than. Because you're right, I like the 2014 Godzilla Atomic Breath, but I like this because it doesn't feel so godly and mass. Because my other two favorite versions of Godzilla are Shin Godzilla and actually Singular Point Godzilla. And when he uses his atomic breath there, it's like it's weird to say godly, but he creates those rings and everything, and then he shoots out his beam, and it feels just a little bit too overpowered, not for a beast of Earth to actually have. Even though in Singular Point it kind of makes sense, but that's metaphysics and everything like that breaks your brain when you start trying to think about it. I like just this is a natural progression. This is how it works, and it still feels kind of out of this world in the way that his scales rise up.
Well, and one thing that I really love with what they did with the atomic breath is they made it a nuclear explosion.
Yes.
And it makes sense because he is a nuclear created creature, essentially.
There's also a metaphor for it.
Exactly. And every time I love that visual and the metaphor that it is, because that is how he was created to be what he was, just even over time. And you see that every time that he's using that blast, and the fact that he has to regenerate internally every time. I thought that was a great touch. I don't know the lore of Godzilla as much either. I loved the animated show growing up.
And Godzilla 98, I'm sure.
Oh god, no. Oh no.
That's
the animated show is actually not bad. I'll say that. I
love Gotsuki.
Oh god. You're lucky. You're lucky.
I'm a girl. I'm allowed.
Yeah. Real quick, Samuel the Infamous for another $10. I think could have lended into the nuclear criticism angle
Can I read
better
those because you can't read.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it could have leaned into the nuclear criticism angle better if Noriko was reduced to a shadow on a wall.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
When this came in, I was giggling because I'm a terrible person.
Reminds me of There Will Come Soft Winds.
Mm-hmm.
It's a short story. It's very very good. There Will Come Soft Rains, I think, actually. So to your last point, Gal, about the ending, I also had a problem with it, like not because the happy ending I liked. I think it just in execution I didn't like it as much, but as far as his motivation of like, there's so many layers to that where he originally is going to sacrifice himself knowingly, and then it's not. And did either of you guys catch that? I totally saw the ejection seat coming. Did you catch on to that?
I did.
Oh my god,
I did too.
Yeah, and I thought it was. I was like, "Oh, that's predictable," because you're gonna pull the red pin and it's gonna eject, and you didn't know. But then they like, I didn't see it coming. Where the guy actually explained it to him, and he was the one that chose, and that's why it was so much more impactful because he didn't have the choice taken from him. He chose to live with Akiko.
Yeah, but it was also not until after he told, I forget the guy's name, but the mechanic, that he was completely committed to doing it. It wasn't until after that he told him about the seat.
Yeah, Tachibana, I love his character, and he's barely in the movie.
Yeah,
but he could see that
value of life.
Yes, basically from the beginning. Like he knows what their honor is in the beginning, but he also can understand where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And then he still trusted him to do the right thing when it came to kill Godzilla with the plane. Like you can do this.
Because he had to know that he was willing to put his life on the line in the first place.
Yeah.
But then to have the ejection seat was, have your cake and eat it too, basically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The only reason Tachibana ended up agreeing to actually help him out is because he actually believed that he was willing to do this time. He was actually going to go through with it. And he saw something in that moment when he encountered him. Like he was ready to die.
Yeah.
He was ready to just give it all up because of his love for Noriko and everything like that. He just didn't care anymore.
Well, and there were things that I'm putting this into the movie. They didn't really spell it out. But there were toys in the house. And there was a shrine, the shrine to all of his family. Like there were things that Tachibana, when he first came there, he might have been pissed and furious with the guy, but he likely would have seen those things. And then throughout fixing the plane and adding the weapons and everything to it, and just seeing who he is now versus who he was in the beginning, like he could pick up on those things, and he's a smart dude. Like they established that in the very beginning. So.
Was that Tachibana who walked over to him in the very beginning and like talked to him while he was like looking out at the ocean?
No, that was a different character that later died.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to ask that too. I didn't know.
No,
face blindness. So the layers on top of. So originally he was going to sacrifice his life. He was going to, his plan was to orphan that girl again, and but like. The reason that he decided, I guess, one big reason why he decided to pull the lever to eject was because he wanted to be there for her, because if he wasn't, then she would have nobody. And so like that makes Noriko, that was her name, right?
Yeah.
So him thinking that she was dead is a huge motivator for that. And then like, and I think it makes it impactful that like he was going to do that, but then like he still gets to have the happy ending. But I think they could have executed it better. It was just like, I guess the music they were playing in the hospital and the overacting was a little bit too much for me, and it didn't hit right.
I think it flowed well, but my biggest problem there originally was, how the hell is this bitch alive?
Well,
so sorry, go
on. They hint at something. They don't outright let you know what's going on there, but you kind of figure out that there's somehow Godzilla abilities being put throughout her, like the regeneration aspect.
Either that or radiation poisoning.
That's like I took that to be her entire like left upper body is irradiated, because they talk about that after the Ginza attack, that everything that he touched or was in the impact area somehow had some sort of radiation. And then you don't see anything except for like right here on her neck is just kind of like spider, like a dark vein spidering throughout her neck.
It's like Venom.
Yeah. Yeah. So I took that to mean that she's irradiated and kind of like deformed, but it is an interesting thought to, if I just feel like that's a bit of a reach, because she didn't come into physical contact with the attack itself, but
it is a bit of a reach, and I think they leave it open-ended. They don't want you to explain it, because the only reason I'm justifying that somehow Godzilla had to pass these cells down to maybe multiple people at once, radiation, whatever, is because once you get to the very final scene, you see Godzilla regenerating again. So it was like, is there some sort of connection now through all this? Is that why she's alive? She actually regenerated part of her body.
And maybe
it wouldn't make sense.
That would make it really complicated later on.
It would make it very complicated later on, but that's the only way I could justify her being alive.
Right.
It's reminding me of another movie. I forget what it is. I can't put my finger on it.
It reminds me of another movie as well, and I also can't remember it. Like, I saw that scene, it's like, I know I've seen this somewhere, but I don't remember where.
Like, the premise is you have the main villain supposedly dies, but then leaves their trace on some other character.
The Thing.
I don't think so.
Yes, that's probably where I'm thinking of.
You read your super chat.
Shut up.
Yes. From Samuel the Infamous for another $5. Tachibana's arc of forgiving Koichi was one of the most satisfying parts for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was such a simple storyline, and it's so well executed.
I like how he lured him in.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, pissed him off. It's my fault, really? You fucker. Like, I'd be hot too.
Like he was willing to take a baseball bat to the head to get him on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part in the storyline, though, was just the kid's storyline. What's his? I don't remember his full name, but the nickname was Kid.
Yeah.
So that's a good segue. If you want to, I had something that I wanted to talk about because when he joined that crew with the kid and the doc and the captain, I forget their nicknames. Captain, right?
It was Doc,
Captain, Kid, and Doc.
Okay, so that's giving me like really strong vibes of like an older trope that they used to have in movies where it was like you join a team of people and they all end up being like important in some way or another. Did you get that?
I would think of it a little differently. I don't know how long they actually said like they worked together or anything like that. I'm trying to go off like the child's age. They worked together for years. They came around a lot. I think what it ended up being was they just had this massive camaraderie together. They kind of implied that they, at least Captain and Doc, worked in the military as well as Koichi.
That was going to be my point. Military brotherhood type of thing.
And I think they executed that really well where it didn't seem forced or contrived. But like, so Doc, it makes sense with Doc because like he worked in, I guess,
it was like military intelligence type of
or weapons or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then he was
naval.
So it makes sense. Yeah. So then it makes sense for him to be on the crew of cleaning up mines because you need to have some sort of technical knowledge of those. And then like because he had direct experience with Godzilla, that put him in the perfect spot to like, come up with a plan
later on
to
with
beat
the plan.
him. Yeah. But like the trope that I'm thinking of, it's like it's from older movies. And I don't know exactly what it is, if it's Japanese or if it's just like movies from that era. Thinking of like 40s, 50s, where like the people, just the random ragtag group of people that you join up with end up being very important to the plot, or like main characters essentially, right? They get sucked into main character syndrome. I'm just wondering if you guys picked up on that.
I would somewhat agree. I think it's just a little bit different that besides maybe Doc, because I didn't expect Doc to have that big of a role that he ended up having. It kind of just makes sense again, just because of their camaraderie and brothership. And also there's this wonderful line when they first meet where you have kids say that he wanted to be in the military. He wished he could have been a part of all that. And like, I think it was both Captain and Koichi looked at him and said, no, you're good not being there.
Yeah.
So but I think they all kind of flow well. Doc was the only one that was kind of out there when you realize how important he actually was to everything.
Yeah. That definitely reminded me of it. It's reminding me of some other movie or show or something like that. And I can't put my finger on it again, but yeah, even Kid, he came back at the end, with help from all the tugboats and, he's maybe not necessarily. Yeah.
It was a nice touch.
Favorite moment.
I love that because like he had his pluses, but he was still just like the inexperienced kid pretty much throughout. But he had that motivation where he wanted to be part of it because initially, like with it, when you first meet him, it's just the rose-colored glasses of war and honor, and I want to be able to serve my country. I want to be able to do those things, but you don't know shit all about it.
But even all the people that he brought into the conflict were a bunch of other citizens that were just tugboat operators.
I feel like they were ones that left from the meeting that didn't.
No, they ended up saying that they were just citizenry, and it kind of helps with the whole idea of like not relying on the government. This is just a ragtag bunch of people, not without the government, that just have experience on the sea coming together and then having everyday people saying, hey, we want to help out as well because this is a serious threat.
Right.
But that's what I liked about Kid, right? Because he had that, that was kind of his niche, and that's where he was able to come in and help, right? And he had his moment, whereas the other ones were more military. He was representing that other group of people who wanted to come contribute.
Right.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I just didn't know if you guys had if that reminded you of something else.
I wouldn't say it reminded me of anything else. I think it's just a classic trope that's throughout most of these movies from, well, most of good storytelling.
Yeah.
When
if I had to,
just characters end up making sense.
Yeah.
Maybe one character has connections to stuff that's just a little bit out of their league, but it just
it's not just
happens.
one woman being able to do everything because she's got a vagina. Yeah, I know.
Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. Like even in the when they were out
type of.
Yeah, it takes a village, because even when they're out on the sea, taking care of the mines, they end up saying like Captain's good at the sailing. I don't remember what Kid was up to the whole time. Doc had the know-how of the mines, and then Koichi was out there shooting because he got so used to fighter pilot shooting that it just it worked for him.
He had the training, right?
I think Kid was just the grunt, and he was like hauling stuff and moving stuff around.
Yes. Which is generally how that works too.
He's the muscle.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question. I didn't see any evidence that Hiroshima or Nagasaki happened in that movie. Do you think it's a parallel world where those didn't happen?
I think it's implied that it happened
in the beginning.
Because,
another
they definitely did. Weapon. They definitely did nuclear testing for sure.
Well, I think it's implied that it happened because if memory serves, America did do massive bomb raids throughout all of Japan, right?
Yeah, the Tokyo bombings. That's one thing I know is like, but those weren't nuclear. That was just.
So there was the one line in the very beginning, Tachibana, when Godzilla, before they know that it's Godzilla showing up, he actually says that line of, "What is it? Another Yankee weapon."
Mm-hmm.
So that to me was the call to the nuclear bombs.
I guess I'm curious because they show the dates. I kind of want to go back. Do you remember when he landed to get his airplane repaired? Do you remember what day that was?
I think
it was 45.
It was 45, but I don't think they said the actual, like the specific date. They did.
I think they did month and year, and I think it was March when he landed.
No, March was when he got back to.
Oh, okay.
I'd be curious to know how the dates line up when when Hiroshima and Nagasaki actually happened. But yeah, that's another interesting thing too. Did you guys pick up on Godzilla at the beginning of the movie was not radiated? He was kind of just like a normal creature.
Yeah.
Well, that was the first thing I thought. I'm like, he's tiny. That's weird.
Well, they end up explaining it, and it kind of. I don't quite like it, but I don't oppose it either. It feels like he's just there at the beginning. Like he just exists and you don't really know much about him. You just know that he's some sort of a deep sea creature.
Yeah.
Dinosaur of some sort.
Like a local legend.
Yeah, a local legend.
Yeah. The very beginning was subpar to me. Like it pretty much right after the Godzilla attack and when he wakes up is when it starts for me like being amazing. One thing that my brother mentioned when we first watched it, because I went back today and watched it for the second time, he felt that the dialogue was terrible in the beginning. Like it was boring.
It's setting up a lot, but I like there's parts of it I like, and it's good that it gives you a little bit of a taste of the action early on, because then there's a lot of human centric stuff that happens right after that.
Yeah.
But also it's foreshadowing a lot of stuff too. But like you're right. I agree with you. It's a little bit too dry.
It happens maybe contrived. I don't know if contrived is the word. It just feels like it all happens all at once. But J.S. Payne is right. It is nice to see Godzillasaurus in a more modernized thing, even though I'm never a huge fan of Godzillasaurus.
And one thing I did like about that first attack was like the eye level camera angle.
Yes.
So cool.
Oh yeah. It is a very visually amazing movie.
And they all for $15 million, and they utilize CGI very well. I would have to say
the scene of Godzilla chasing the boat looked real,
bring that up. Oh,
and
God.
it was terrifying. It was bringing me Jaws vibes.
Well,
yes, it was amazing.
I kept hearing Chris Gore say tons of Jaws vibes, tons of Jaws inspiration. I'm like, how can you get Jaws inspiration in a Godzilla movie? What is it? What's going on here? And then you see the movie, and it's like, yeah, there's Jaws, there's Jaws, there's a giant freaking monster chasing after you.
Yeah.
On second viewing, the that scene when it first their sister ship, when it first attacks and then starts moving towards them, I was thinking the entire time that it all makes sense. I know that they had to start the engine late to make it more intense, but it actually works because he's such a huge creature that he's not able to just pivot on a dime. Like he has to take a moment to turn. So them barely getting their engine started in time was like, it was a perfect scene to me because you can see him slowly having to turn to follow them in the direction that they were going. I loved that.
And he also wasn't like, it didn't look like he was in a huge hurry. But like that part where he blew up the bomb inside of his mouth, that was definitely a Jaws callback. And then after that, he got like, he was definitely like angry after that. And it's only because that other ship showed up that they didn't get annihilated.
The
that was such an awesome scene.
I knew it was coming too. Like after his cheek starts like regenerating after that, I was just like, oh, that ship's gonna show up because he's gonna be fucking pissed.
Yeah. And then he was.
Yeah.
And that was when we first saw the atomic. I would say we saw part of the atomic breath. We didn't see the
before
in full glory.
Yeah, not in full glory. I think before you saw it, he like shot a ship from underwater.
Yeah, I think it was that ship that he ended up shooting from underwater.
Yeah, it was that one that was
destroying it.
Yes.
Just he was just angry, tearing it apart because he could tear it apart, and then went underwater just to destroy it.
I thought there was like a very quick clip earlier, like the montage of when like the Navy was chasing him through the ocean. I can't remember.
No, I don't think they did show it there, but they did show like him becoming Godzilla, which I did like that.
It was very It was just at an atoll, like there was nuclear testing or something. That actually the first time I saw it, I was confused. I was like, wait, that just jumped to 1946. I thought it was a flashback. And then watching it the second time, I was like, oh, I get it now. I gotcha. That
was the Bikini Atoll, right?
Yes.
Do you know the lore about that in SpongeBob?
Yeah.
No.
That's what Bikini Bottom is based on.
Yeah.
I hate SpongeBob.
Quick side note.
There's not a good segue for this. No, you're fine. Just I want the final battle. Like even today, there were only 4 people in the theater today because I went at like 12:30. But it was the same exact feeling that I had the first time watching it. Complete and utter silence, and like you could hear the silence. If that makes any sense, that's the only way I can explain it.
So in my theater, I had there was like 2 or 3 kids in the back that couldn't read fast enough. I don't know why their parents even took them to this. Maybe they didn't know it was subtitled, but they were like bored through most of the movie. They were talking, they were chatting, but when that scene happened, dead quiet, including them. And just it's so impressive. I know.
that was a phenomenal scene. But in my theater, yes, we had kids that came that were way too young. They were at this massive party, and in that scene, I was like, "These kids are going to be talking through it. They're going to."
I was worried too.
It's like, no, they're not talking through it. But instead, their grandma decided to pick up some sort of bag of goodies and try to open it in that moment.
Oh
it's
God,
like fucking
ruining it.
But I did love that scene, like when he, like I'm in tears. Like I might be a Marine, but I'm a woman. Like I was just
really?
Oh my God. And when he's flying and Captain is just yelling at him, you could just, the acting in this movie is amazing. I could feel every scene with every actor. You know that they were invested in it. It was just it was beautiful.
And like watching all of his friends' reactions to seeing him like apparently going to sacrifice himself is amazing.
Okay.
Oh my God, Sam, we will get to that.
I was just gonna say, so that was one of the problems that I had.
Yeah.
Was like a lot of the scenes I thought he was like standing in shallow water, but then I guess his tail is so big that he's able to like hold himself up above water a little bit. So like his center of mass must be lower down.
I don't know.
Like he's a really good swimmer.
I don't think they explain it, but
No.
even before they did their whole plan, they said, yeah, he can just do this.
Right.
So
like he is.
It didn't. Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it because they even had it in their plan. It's like, how do you know that he can do this? How can he do this? You know what?
Right. We don't know.
If I start thinking about this,
it was just a little confusing. Like when I assumed that he was standing in
bite him. Yeah.
I assumed he was standing in shallow water, and then they start doing their plan. I'm like, oh, he must be floating. Otherwise, they wouldn't be trying to sink him.
Godzilla's got abs, man. He able to jump out of the water to almost bite the freaking eat the plane. Like,
yeah.
Oh, that was an awesome scene. But real quick, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh, from I'm gonna butcher this guy's name.
Alfarius Omegon. There you go.
Alfarius Omegon. You see that often in Asian cinema, collectivism without government involvement. Japan actually has patrols of groups of citizens that deter crime by walking the streets and shaming people poor behavior.
Cool.
I get people from that, but yeah, I've seen that before. I've heard of it. I've noticed it in also, anime and everything like that.
At least 13 years ago, if you got sent to prison there, you were in a hovel, tiny little hole where you're crouching and you get water and rice. So
that doesn't sound like fun.
Yeah, it's not exactly the most humane way to treat people, but it kind of, at least in Okinawa, there wasn't crime.
Well, you know what? Sometimes when you have massive punishments for stuff, it kind of deters certain
criminal
things.
behavior. Yeah. But anyway, on that.
So, yeah, I've got a couple other things I can bring up.
Yeah.
So, did either of you pick up on any kind of metaphor with Godzilla being kind of a reactive force to society or war, and like that's the reason why he was attacking?
I've heard some people say that, like he was because of the nuclear testing. That's why he started acting the way he is. The way I saw it was he was more of he was just a force of nature, and when he was smaller, he had this small little area that he patrolled. But because he got bigger, he ended up patrolling a bigger area. They even specified, like you said, that he's made this part of his territory now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've always seen that as Godzilla. Like that metaphor's pretty much always been there for me. The nuclear bombs, the nuclear testing, it's the yin yang. Like there has to be something that comes out of it. Whether either side is good or evil, there's going to be a balance to it. And I'm perfectly fine with Godzilla being good sometimes, and I'm perfectly fine with him being bad. Like he is a monster. He's the king of monsters, and Kong can go screw himself. I hate King Kong. Always have. Never been a fan.
So I think
this is why we're best friends. I love Godzilla and I hate King Kong.
Go ahead, Kratos.
This is the reason why everything comes together is the common values, right? So kind of what I could interpret it, and if I was interpreting it that way. So when Godzilla was small in the beginning of the movie, what was he attacking? Why was he attacking that place? Because it was like a military establishment. It was like mechanic thing, but that's kind of small fish in a small pond. He's just like, maybe you can make the argument that he's, just trying to get them out of his territory or whatever. He was still a jerk at the beginning of the movie. I think radiating him and like making him angry and giving him superpowers just made the problem worse. But then you could interpret it as like, that made him so angry. Now he's going to go after like, where he interprets the source to be, which is just big cities, I guess.
Yeah.
Revenge.
I guess you could say that. I think the small fish in the little pond, and also I don't think they meant to irradiate him. He was just an accidental irradiation. So I think that becomes an issue. Yeah, it's a consequence. So
like the
I like
Jurassic Park quote. You never stop to think whether you should.
Yeah. I guess I like that they left it ambiguous because I guess they didn't say, because he did attack the military base, so the military must have known about him. So maybe they did retaliate, or maybe it was just a consequence of testing.
I think it's just that he was a massive animal. When you remember, you're right, he did attack the military base, but in the beginning they outright said, "Hey, he was a local legend." They didn't know he existed, and I think he was just maybe doing his whole territorial thing, saw something there that he hadn't seen before. Because I don't know how often he comes up from underwater or anything like that. He was a legend. So he saw something he didn't like and began investigating, and from there, everything went to shit. It's like stumbling upon a wild animal.
Right.
They're gonna interact in a way that you're not gonna like.
Yep.
So there's one thing that I did want to bring up that I kind of love the I can't think of the term, but like they're mirroring each other. So like the big picture of like the government wants you to sacrifice yourself for the greater good.
Even in a losing battle.
Right. And after the country lost, they had to start rebuilding. And so you're seeing the process, the time lapses. I loved that they were just like every 6 months or so, like showing how they've rebuilt the home, and then the cities are being rebuilt. And so there's commentary on like that small scale, just how it's affecting his life. But in the end, it's affecting the entire country, and the country in the end, the citizens come together without the help of the government, because the government failed so frequently. And there was that motivational speech that Doc gives that essentially says, sorry, that was essentially saying that we haven't been treating life how we should be treating life. Like, and it's kind of that back to that commentary of the government has made us sacrifice ourselves and not value life. And that we're a citizen brigade type of group where we're going to value life and we're not going to lose a life in this. And like, it goes back to him and the way that he's thinking. He's lost his honor. He doesn't deserve a family. He doesn't deserve happiness. He's haunted by the ghosts of these mechanics. The images that he has that Tachibana gave him are a constant reminder that he doesn't deserve any of this. Like in the beginning, I kind of see him as like the government itself. And then in the end, he is a citizen. He's a citizen because he made the choice to live, to be there for his daughter, essentially. And they've all rebuilt together, and they didn't lose a single life. And he didn't lose the life that he thought he had in Noriko.
I think there's like a lot more burden in living for the future than dying for the future sometimes. And like being willing to, you know, take both of those people into his house and support them. But that's like a huge decision, and this movie is great on like fatherhood and, you know, traditional masculine roles. It's great.
Oh, absolutely. And like it's not even heavy-handed with it.
Noriko, just like, this is what you should do. You should be doing this.
Right. And like she was fine being at home, like basically pretending to be his wife until like she even takes it in stride. She's just doing the dishes after doing her duty, like refilling the drinks and everything, because this is Japan and this is their culture. And she doesn't crack. Like she just takes it, she hears it, and she rebuilds herself as well. Man.
And the friends putting pressure on him at that dinner of like, like, why don't you do this?
Right. Like clearly you're a family. Clearly you love her. She loves you. You love this little girl. Like there was never a question that they were a family until it came out, because, you know,
that's one of the big things. I know somebody on some other stream was talking about, I think it was Side Scrollers. They were talking about bullying, and like, there's a point, you know, shaming people into corrective action. You know, there's like, on one hand, like you don't want to be bullying for sake of bullying or for no reason, but like that moment of like, dude, no, you need to man up, you need to do this. And that's kind of like the positive side of it.
I would say that's more shaming him than bullying him. But I see what you're saying at the same time.
Bullying, like I was bullied, but like bullying in general is just like, oh yeah, I'm sure everybody was.
Made me a better person.
Yeah.
It made me a worse person.
Friends with my boys.
But it's like, you know, there are certain behaviors that you need to like stamp out, and I don't think that kids are getting that these days, and that's why you end up with a lot of behaviors that you do as adults.
Absolutely.
Not everybody's like me, who when you tell me not to do something, I'm gonna go do it just out of spite. So but
that's not a bad thing, Jeremy.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah, I know.
You've seen me do it for the bad reasons. Okay, listen. But real quick, Samuel, the infamous, he had a dip because his power is about to go out, but I want to quickly get this. The commentary would be the consequences of U.S. nuclear testing being a mess the Americans left Japan to deal with, which is fair. And yeah.
Absolutely. Plus also like the Japanese military was just not, or the government was, you know, they're just like, you know what, it's up to you guys. We're out.
Well, they didn't have a military at the time. That was one of the big issues. They weren't allowed to have one due to the World War II treaties and everything like that.
And
I do find
demilitarized.
My brother actually brought this up, but I agree. I find it interesting how they tied in the real world aspect of Japan's emulation of MacArthur after the war. Like, they loved that man. And so I like how they just brought him in, like, I don't know if that was any actual footage of anything.
I think that was real footage of him.
Yeah, I think that was real footage.
Speaking of Japanese government, what did you guys think about the commentary on the information control early on?
Oh yeah,
like, I loved it.
Well, and what's funny is every government does it. Our government is doing it.
Yeah,
like they're not even hiding it anymore, and I loved it because. Yeah. It's so needed to open people's eyes right now.
Well, it's like people will still to this day say, "Oh, that's a crazy conspiracy theory." You think they're actually doing that? And it's like they were doing it before. You know, they just have new methods now, but like all the way back then, even before that, like information control is critical to controlling a population.
It's a bit crass to bring it up today of all days, but the reason we joined the war is not exactly proven who did what today, back in the day.
I mean, the Pearl Harbor.
Well, I think we know who did it. The thing is, we don't know. Did we know before
who facilitated it?
Yeah.
And
I'm talking about Pearl Harbor, 9/11, or any of the other examples.
Yes. All Desert Storm.
Yes to everything.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, the interesting thing about Pearl Harbor was, like, you know, there's even the argument that the United States was poking the bear even before that happened because of all of the, like, they were blocking routes in the ocean and stuff like that, and like being very antagonistic to Japan. You had to read that.
This is I brought it up, but it's just it goes along with this conversation. There's a pilot who came back from 9 missions. He was arrested for cowardice and sentenced to death, survived because the war ended, then was hung by the Allied government for being a kamikaze.
God. Wow.
Government sucks.
Government sucks, but also at the time when you deal with like how Japan's government thought, the only reason we dropped the nukes was because they weren't going to give up. They were going to throw everybody at you until they had nobody else.
Yeah,
because they didn't value life. That's what we're continuing on with this thing. That's one of my favorite parts about this movie. It was such a, you need to value life over everything else. Don't
well,
be
the fact that
it was with everything.
And they really didn't.
The Japanese.
Yeah, and they really didn't sugarcoat like the.
I apologize for the cat, by the way.
Nobody cares about the cat.
I didn't even notice it.
Okay.
But they really didn't sugarcoat the kamikaze, like anything surrounding that political or military strategy either, which is nice.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't tell Captain Doc or any of them that he was a kamikaze pilot until basically the very end. They just knew he was in the Air Force. He never said he was a kamikaze.
For good reason. Like, you saw the way his neighbor shamed him.
Yes.
But I like that his neighbor came back later and was like, "Oh, wow, you're stepping up and you're bringing these people into your house."
The character growth in this entire film, every character in the main, like, surrounding, like, had this growth of.
Yes. Because like you want to hate her initially because
Yes.
because she had her losses too, but like she came in and helped them, gave them food, and was like, here's how you got to take care of a baby. Go ahead.
Well, and you're also sympathetic to her as well because she just lost everything and watched it happen. So you can understand where like their culture is this, and this dude, that she probably watched grow up into this coward that lost the war and made it to where these air raids killed their family and tore their lives apart.
And maybe he wasn't necessarily to blame, but she blames him because the correlation.
Yeah.
And really quick from Alfarius Omegon. Did I say that right? I feel like
close enough.
Well, okay. Especially for you.
Good enough for a retard. Our government is forcing theirs to do now. And forcing our sons and daughters, brothers and sisters to go do bad things that we don't want them to be doing.
Yeah.
Value life above all else. We've come across the hour mark. I know, Kratos, you only had an hour.
I've got a couple other things that I can talk about, and then I can head out.
Well, okay, we can do that. And then I was going to, if you can still stick around for a little while, we can do that real fast. Well, not real fast, but however long it takes.
I've just got one other thing. Do you guys think that I know this is kind of like it would be a cop out for the movie, but do you think that it was all in his head and it was a way of him to psychologically deal with the trauma of war? Because if you look at like like maybe the original Godzilla attack was actually just a regular raid and it was his mind inserting that, and then later on you get the actual. That's why I was curious about the timing of when Hiroshima and Nagasaki happened, because then you have like 2 Godzilla attacks and then he comes in and he kind of like gets over it in his own head.
I think you'd have to be stretching to go that far. I think what it ultimately is Gary actually said it. You're watching a people that were already ravaged by war, basically decimated, broken down by everything, dealing with a new threat is what I think it boils down to. I don't think you can say that it's all in his head.
I also think with the ending that like he got his peace, his war ended. And then they show him regenerating. That would be my issue with that theory, is that he's found his peace, so therefore that part wouldn't be needed, that very end of him regenerating.
Which, by the way, I don't want a sequel. I don't want to see.
No, I like movies that are just one and done, like Triple R. It's great. We don't need to talk about that.
There was something that you said.
But yeah, that's an interesting. The dream theory is always a crazy one to throw out. But I because he, even during the movie, he was questioning whether his stuff was real or if he was just being punished or something.
So that was the actual thing that I was trying to think of just moments ago, because of you bringing this up. Is a point that I wanted to make, was how well done this is when it comes to PTSD. I don't have PTSD. I only know it adjacent. I had an uncle that was in Vietnam, and he was a very stoic person and didn't want to talk about things. And I proudly tried to open his shell as much as I could. But it's so well done, showing the thoughts that military veterans have, especially ones with PTSD, where they have the survivor's guilt. Obviously, they're going to have that, especially ones that truly have PTSD and went through the shit. This movie does, it is a very well done commentary on PTSD, showing the regular person how people process what has happened to them in these tragic situations, where they think, no, I'm just dead. Like in a moment, like a scattered moment where they get frantic. It is completely believable that this is what they're thinking, that, oh my God, no, I actually died and this is all in my head. And they just start freaking out. Those moments in this movie are so visceral to me, because knowing just adjacent the feeling of PTSD, wartime PTSD.
And that's one thing that makes the movie so good is like it's not just a Godzilla movie. It's a human story, and it's about war and overcoming that. But even like the kid's reaction, or the main character's reaction to what Kid said about like, how dare you say you wish the war would have went on longer?
You better not mean that.
Yeah, so good.
Well, this is actually a key part about Godzilla movies as a whole. Not to try to take this away, but the very first Godzilla movie was a commentary on the nuclear bomb and how it affected how Japanese culture as a whole. Then from there, you got the fun times and everything like that, Godzilla being a kaiju monster fights. But then a lot of people are in agreement that the second best Godzilla movie ever was Shin Godzilla, because it was actually a commentary on the government's response to not Nagasaki, the tidal wave, and that the plant that melted down. Yeah, Fukushima.
Oh,
it was a commentary on that. Yeah, it was a commentary on that whole situation that was going on there, and the government's lackluster response, and the fact that you had to go through all these hoops in order to do it.
It wasn't even all these hoops. I was going to the Philippines when that happened. Like, I was already set to go, and they cut our unit in half for the U.S. humanitarian effort to come in and help with that. So like I still went to the Philippines, but the other people that were slotted to go with me, they went to mainland Japan to help with that.
Well, even if you remember with Fukushima, that's another example of Japanese culture of like citizens stepping up, where all of the elderly came and helped come clean up stuff because they're like, we're old already. We don't care if we get radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
So.
And then you get to this one, which is another commentary piece. And yet it's considered a beautiful movie, well done, everything like that. And you take a look at the other Godzilla movie trailer that we got recently.
Yeah.
I'm taking this one over that all day, every day.
Don't even.
Don't invoke her name.
We're having such a good conversation.
Well, I'm trying to say, like, Godzilla movies work best when they are actually a commentary on something. Yeah, my other favorite Godzilla movie of all time is still Final Wars, but I love the commentary ones. I think they're just beautiful and amazing.
Yeah, like movies, I think in general work great when, like, we just watched Triple R a little while ago. Like when you have a I don't know, just a story about humans, really, and good character growth. But yeah,
RRR made, to quote the lovely Anna at Star Wars Girl, my uterus very happy. I love that movie so much.
Made my testosterone levels increase.
So separate conversation, but I'm probably gonna host a meetup, hopefully sometime soon, because I live near Gary. I've been talking to his wife about hosting a meetup to watch Triple R, like renting out an Alamo Theater. That would be cool.
That'd be so cool.
I need to get on that.
Shit, we're talking about Godzilla, and now I'm thinking about two men on top of each other shooting guns. That came out wrong.
Gay. You are so gay.
That came out wrong, but you both know what I'm talking about.
I think we need a crossover. I think that's a new Godzilla Kong movie.
That would be glorious.
Godzilla Kong, but it's Triple R style.
I want to watch that again now. It was so good.
You should watch it again.
I want to watch it.
God, it was so good.
And
I want to watch Godzilla -1 again. I want to do that.
That was me today. And when I got in, so my brother and I, we have like 4 Alamos out here to choose from. We go to the newest one because it's the best one. When I was going past the counter and showed my ticket, he saw that it said Godzilla on it, and he got so excited. He's just like, "Have you seen it?" Like, no, he started talking about it. You're gonna love it so much. I'm like, "Oh, honey, I've already seen it." He's like, "Oh my god, I'm going for my second viewing tonight. Is this like your second one?" And we totally geeked out. There was another chick there that was working there, but just like standing, and we just kept talking, and he was just like, "Oh my god, go enjoy your movie. You know, have a good time, whatever." As I'm walking away, I can hear him still talking. He's like, "Finally, someone that I could just nerd out with on this." Because, like, she responded with something, and I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, "I'm sorry, dude."
It's such a good movie.
Bringing people together.
Yeah.
Do you have any more points, Kratos, before I try to? Before I bring up like my final question to the panel.
Yeah. Just, do you guys know what the -1 is in reference to?
So I made a comment to my brother at the end. I was just like, Godzilla lost this one, so he's -1. I put that comment on a video. I can't remember which video it was that I was watching. And a couple of people weighed in. One person said that it was like the countdown for like a T minus blah, blah, blah. A countdown for nuclear power situations. And then another person said the trailer actually explained it, that Japan was at 0 after the war. And Godzilla.
Yeah, that's the part that I heard too.
-1.
Yeah, so like
you know what? You're right. That was in the trailer.
I don't remember that in the trailer at all.
I heard that
the
was
very first trailer.
I never seen the trailer, but so what I heard was, and I think it came from the director, that like what you said, Japan was kind of at 0. They were in reconstruction, and like it was the worst possible time for it to happen, and then they're just like even more so -1. What I originally thought that it was like, a prequel reference.
Right. Like there's gonna be more.
I never even thought of it, even though the trailer tells it to you. And looking back, I have the trailer reaction on my thing, and I remember saying it aloud. Actually, it's this. Okay, that makes sense.
The movie was so like distractingly good. You don't remember those things.
But I think that's what it was. But I was joking after I saw it with my friends, and we were like, "So is the next Godzilla is the sequel to this going to be Godzilla 0?
Yeah.
Not Godzilla is -1 too.
Yeah.
That'd be weird. Yeah, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up with one final question to the panel. What was your favorite moment in the actual movie? Because I can tell you mine was when all the ships finally go out to war and you get the Godzilla theme just ramping up. The dun 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 dun. I got chills.
I'm going to have to think about it. You take it first, Gal.
I'm gonna, God, that final battle.
It's good.
And with when do they start the music? It was when the ships start turning.
It's when I think the two remaining ships. No, it's either when the first two ships just go out there, or it's when the two last ships go out there to start wrapping up. And it's one of those moments when the ships start moving out.
When they're colliding, I loved that part. Like, I don't really have an explanation of it. It was a very nice touch, because that it's an impossible task what they're doing with those ships. And so when they say impact is inevitable, and just watching it happen, I was just like, it's small things like that where normal people just wouldn't think of to be annoyed at. And like, I'm not strategic minded at all. I am a language person. I'm not a mathematical person. So I'm not going to think of those things, but I do appreciate when movies think of those things, like, oh my God, they're going to collide. There's no way they're not going to. So
I have a small issue with that scene when they're doing that. It's just, I don't know how tall that crane is compared to the other ships.
So I was thinking that I think what they did was, their ship, the Yukikaze, was the main one with the crane, so that what I would assume they would do in that moment is have it sit higher than the.
That's kind of what I thought.
I think they even showed it.
What I thought, but
I think they even showed it raising up so that it could pass over the other ship.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Honestly, I didn't notice the second ship's crane at all.
They didn't have one.
I don't think they had it.
So how did they?
Theirs was just attached
to
the end. Yeah.
Okay.
And then even the crane, I was a little bit confused by that part. Like, the crane broke, but it was still, I guess they
hanging
connected
on and
it.
Able to, yeah. I was even on second viewing, I was like, how did it not just fall off? So it's just hanging on one side. That's even less.
Like, that must have been, there must have been like at least an hour in between it of like, of all the tugboats getting connected and everything. So there must have been time in there.
Yeah. There were a couple of moments where,
but it's good, because for the pacing of that scene, you don't want to have all that slow, like,
you don't want to see that
slow explanation of everything, even if it doesn't make full sense.
You just assume, okay, they hooked it all up, we're good to go.
Well, I think what it was is the crane was just feeding the wire, essentially. I think the wire was actually bolted down to the.
Oh, that's a good point.
To the thing, because if memory serves, the wire was actually underneath
giving it structure
the crane.
And strength.
Because I was paying attention to that. Like after the tugboats connected, I was like, wait, didn't the crane rip off? And I saw that the crane was still like on the deck. So
because it's on the reel essentially.
Yeah.
I think you need to imagine it like a giant fishing rod, essentially.
Yep.
Your line's down here, and this is your rod. So
yeah.
Right.
Well, for my answer, I'm going to go with one of the human scenes because, my gut reaction was the explosion scene where, when the first big nuke when she supposedly died, but I think the one moment that actually hit me the most was when his neighbor like came to support him.
Yeah.
Like when she because despite everything, she's like, okay, I'm still gonna. Well,
yeah,
almost neighbor, like in a way.
Yeah, so like
or older sister because I think they're similar in age.
Yeah, so she already had 2 kids. They didn't say how old they were, but they both died. And so like despite everything, even though she kind of blames him, she's gonna come give food, which is hard to find and at the time, and like she's going out of her way, and that's kind of maybe her way of dealing with losing her kids. And so that was really an impactful moment. And I think besides that, like we already talked about this, but like his friends kind of like telling him to man up, like why aren't you marrying this woman?
So one of the scenes that I meant to mention earlier was kind of bone chilling for me, was when they salute him after he, in the final scene, like when they see him with a good shoot, they just, all of them saluting him just helps you realize what just happened, what he lost his honor and he regained his honor and had a full redemption arc. Because technically you could say, like, if you're thinking from the Japanese perspective, that he's kind of not evil per se, but he's the bad guy. Like, he didn't do his duty. He has no honor. He doesn't deserve happiness. Like, that's their mentality. And he goes through a full redemption arc. Whether you agree with that or not, you can understand it. And just the entire nation owes him their lives, and just that acknowledgement. Maybe it's because I'm military. It was just I loved that scene so much.
I agree with you. That's like just getting the recognition of your peers and
that he doesn't want. He just his decision was based on that little girl alone, like being there for her, not making her an orphan. Like it wasn't for that. And
I like how visually, and I'm gonna have to watch the movie again, but I think the moment he starts wearing that jacket with like the fur neck, I think that's to like visually mark his character change.
Yeah.
Did you pick up on that?
So
a little bit.
My brother, when that happened, he like leans over and he's just like, pilots and their motorcycles. Like Tom Cruise bullshit. Like, yeah.
All I thought during those moments was, I want a jacket like that.
Right. Like,
I want that jacket.
The guy looks so cool in the second half of the movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like he came into his own, and I agree that is I think it definitely is symbolism that he is becoming the person that he should be and gaining his honor back. Yeah. Good catch. I like it.
Okie dokie. Gal, did you see your favorite moment? Was that the bone chilling moment that was your favorite? Or okay.
For now,
have to give
there's so many.
There is so many. You have to give at least one honorable mention to the devastation after the atomic breath, because that was a beautifully shot scene. So.
Well, and I loved Doc's monologue, essentially, telling them, describing who they are before and what they should be now and moving forward for the future.
You keep reminding me, there's another scene that I really loved, which was when Doc was telling everybody the plan, and he commands a certain amount of authority when he's telling everybody the plan, but then like it gets to a certain point where I keep forgetting the main character's name. Yeah, so he stands up and he's like, are we actually going to do it? And when he's walking out, like
the desperation.
Well, just so Doc begging him to come back and listen, it like to the rest of the crowd, that implies to the rest of the crowd that this guy is important. Swaying this guy is going to sway everybody else. And so like
he's the one person in that room that Doc broke character for, essentially, in that moment. I had those same exact thoughts. Like the weight of that scene.
Yeah. And then so a little bit later, after like some of the people walked out, that was amazing too, where like they started rallying, but I was expecting him to say something. He was standing there and shot, but he just kept quiet.
If you notice that scene, because I was just about to bring this up. In that scene when everybody's walking out, the guy that initially said that he wanted to leave and run away, he doesn't leave and run away.
Yeah.
He stays there the whole time. Yeah.
Well, and what I also love is the I can't remember what his rank was, but the highest level, like admiral or whatever he was. They're all civilians in that moment, but they're veterans, they're former Navy. And he completely
like he gives the reins,
he relieves them from any guilt. Like you can go. No one will judge you. You have no obligation.
Yeah.
He also treats them as equals instead of like a commanding officer. Yes, they're giving him respect and he has like that authority there.
God, that was such a nice touch. Like from my military side, when he walks,
not acting like
officer on deck.
A general or a high-ranking officer. He's acting like an everyday person.
And you can see the respect that they give him too when he walks in, and they're all they're all standing at attention.
Like they go back to their baser instincts.
Yeah.
But then when they're able to like stop and think about what's going on, like some of them, like we have families, we've served our country, and like you have no obligation.
And I like that he gives the reins away too. Like he's there for, you know, his usefulness, what he's good for, his connections, because I think he's the one who gets the ships, right? But besides that, like he's not there to boss people around. He's there to serve his purpose as a citizen and plays part.
He's there more just to help kind of lead everything, I would say. Facilitate and maybe just lead everything, because he's just a commander and he knows how to just lead an operation. That's the only reason he's there.
Because like in the moment it was somebody else, it was either Doc or Captain, I forget, giving that guy orders, and then he would pass the orders to everybody else.
Right. Yes,
so somebody else calling the shots. Like it was Doc's plan.
I think it was Doc calling the shots the whole time.
I just can't remember if there was a scene where like Doc tells Captain something and then Captain tells the general.
I think there was a moment where I think it was actually the other way around, that Doc tells the general something, and the general yells to Cap to do something, because I think that's how they were lined up and everything. Like
the timing of releasing the gas bubbles or something along those lines.
Yes. But on that note, guys, I think we've come to the end of this discussion. We could talk about this for probably hours on end, but I know some people have to get food and have other stuff that needs to be going on.
You got to get going. Did you get out of your system, Gal?
Yes, thank you.
There you go.
We'll talk about it again tomorrow night, Gal, and Kratos, you can chat. But
I'll be in chat.
On that note, before we end tonight, Kratos, where can people find you?
Twitter. I'm not really. I don't really have a huge presence, but yeah, if you're interested in my takes on stuff, or you just want to mess around on Twitter, you can just follow me there. KratosElGratos.
Gal, where can
YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Instagram, green haired anti-liberal. That's where you'll find me.
You got anything going on tonight?
Yeah, I guess. That's Talking with Knife Hands in I can't do math, a little over a half hour. Yep. And then tomorrow on Ballbusters on this channel right here.
That's right. We got Ballbusters tomorrow, and we got Jesse the Common Nerd coming on. He'll be late, but we'll see what we're doing. I'm just gonna warn you now, Gal.
Yeah.
There was an interview that went out between toxic bitch that's gonna be Snow White. What's her name? Fuck.
Rachel
Zegler and Haley Bailey Mermaid
Bailey.
Bitch. Yeah, Mermaid Bitch. They had a variety interview that went out, and we might be going over that.
Not looking forward to that.
Listen, I like talking about these two whores because they're awful human beings.
God,
okay.
Figure out a way to tag them in all of your video posts.
I really should start doing that. I really should. But in the meantime, guys, thank you again for watching. Thank you again for showing up. Thank you for listening to us nerd out over Godzilla. And I will see you guys all on the next one.
Thanks for having me on.
For now. Yeah, no problem, Kratos. Come on, load, you fucker. Load. Is it playing for
Oh, yeah.